Welcome to the Men After God podcast, where you will be challenged and encouraged as you pursue God, achieve success, and raise a thriving family. Join your host, Dustin, and his guests on a weekly journey to grow as husbands, fathers, and men after God. Here is your host, Dustin Alley.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Men After God podcast. I love these special interview episodes because it takes me back to our first year of podcasting, where this is what we did every week for over 60-something episodes. We were interviewing men from across the spectrum that were followers of Jesus, and they may be following Jesus like you do. They may be following Jesus completely different than you do, but the truth of the matter is they believe the gospel, they love Christ, and they're living their lives as to how he has called them to live it. And that's exactly what my friend Adam here does with his company, Build Groups. And I'm excited to have him on to talk with you today, because what I want you to understand from this conversation is, number one, Adam's a great guy. I've loved my interactions with him. He's so kind. He's very knowledgeable about what he's talking about. Secondly, the importance of groups in your life and the life of your church. If you're a men's ministry leader, you understand, or should, how important it is to gather men together, have conversations, and talk about what's happening in their lives, talk about scripture, and have Bible studies. And I'm excited to have conversations with you about that. If you want to connect with us, go to facebook.com/groups/menaftergod and jump in there and ask any questions about how we talk about group facilitation, which I know Adam and I are going to cover today. But without further ado, Adam, thanks so much for being here with us, man. Tell us a little bit about your family and, run that into how you got a part of Build Groups and just how you grew such an amazing beard. If you're listening to our podcast, you're missing out on just the magnificence of what is on Adam's face.
Just for the record, I did rub some dirt in my hands, drink black coffee, take a Sharpie, put a few little extra hairs on my chest for this interview.
That's it. Yes. Yeah, I need to start doing that. Maybe that would help. Like I've got a bang, if that does anything.
That's got to count for something. That has to put hair in the chest, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I couldn't grow a beard till I was about 26, and now it's just, this is me. This is the brand. Can't mess with it. It would scare my children.
I'm 37, and I'm still waiting for the day I can grow a full beard. So that's where I'm at in life. Thanks for that. So I need some beard oil. That's what I need to get. Just rub it in.
They got some different techniques out there, whatever you can do. But I'm the only man in my family that can grow one, so I'm fortunate in that way.
I got chosen child here. Appreciate that. Look at that. We got this special one on today. So all Adam's brothers, fathers, uncles, and fathers. He's probably only got one, just guessing. But be jealous, and we're there with you.
Definitely. Yeah, my brother, he got a lot of things that I didn't, but this isn't one of them. So I hope he's listening.
Man.
But
yes,
a little bit about me. I'm down in the Dallas, Texas area and have done ministry down here, worked on several church staff. Originally, I'm from the Northeast. I'm from Pennsylvania. I was born outside Philadelphia. Did not grow up a Christian, going to church, believing the gospel. Didn't have any of that. It wasn't until I was 19 years old that encountered Jesus, and it radically transformed me to hear the saving message of Jesus Christ, and literally transformed me just right before my own very eyes as an evidence that he was real. And
amen. That's awesome.
Conquered, so many sins in my life, from pornography and objectifying women and sexualizing and plenty of other just anything you can think of that a athlete who played ice hockey for 18 years would do. Just fill in the blank, and there you go. And it was at Liberty University I met the Lord, was saved there, met my wife there, was called to ministry. Man. And now my wife Anna and I, we have 3 boys, 11, 9, and 7. We have a total frat house, man. It is a wild ride every day. They are tough, rough, tumbling, high energy, destructively graceful.
Yes.
Compassionate boys. It is
wonderful, man. I've got 2 boys and a girl, and so it's and about the same ages. 11, 9. He turns 10 just here in January, and then my daughter is 8. They just turned 8, and so I think she brings that. She keeps it from being the frat house. She's still rough and tumble, but man, 3 boys. That's got to be a blast.
It is something, where they say boys give you medical bills and girls give you therapy bills. I don't know, something like that, right? And we're praying for a girl for that last one. It turned out, we're like, hey, this will help settle some of the levels of testosterone boost these boys are getting, it'll, kind of make this home a little bit slower and gentle. And then it was just like the third one came and he was even worse than the first two. So
he was the wildest of them all.
Oh, he is the youth pastor of our family. I got executive pastor, oldest son, care compassionate pastor, second son, third son, youth pastor. Just life of the party.
That's it. Yeah, and middle school youth pastor at that. Okay, got it. Yeah.
he's there. Yeah, that's it. That's it, man.
I love that. So you said you were at Liberty University, but didn't trust Christ till you're 19. Okay. Now, did you go to a Christian university not being a follower of Jesus?
Yeah, I did not realize like it was a legitimate, real Christian school, because there's plenty of schools that would. I just showed up and I was like, oh my goodness, and there was curfew, there was no drinking, there was
like, whoa, wait a minute, hang on,
dress code, and my best friend went there, was a big reason I went, and was like, oh yeah, it's just, be a good person. It's morals or morality. And I grew up in a conservative home. I was moral, but no gospel and no faith. And so I showed them like, well, this is like legit. There's chapel 3 times a week. And
wow,
everyone is weird about, purity and all these things. It was a total culture shock for me, man.
Yeah.
And it was an adjustment, but it was such a kind grace of the Lord to bring me there for no real intelligent reason, and come there and get saved. And so went from there and was called to ministry, was in business for a few years, and have served in youth, young adult ministry, college ministry, adult ministry, was an executive pastor at a large church in the Dallas area. And for the last 2 years, which we've had build groups for 5 years, did that part-time for 3 and full-time now for the last 2 years. We help consult churches. I like to say in a biblical sense of we help share wisdom to churches on how to improve, start, strengthen small groups ministry, solve the volunteer crisis, help them with their assimilation process, all the types of nuts and bolts things that you would see. And then we've also got just different resources that we've written, published to help complement and supply churches with that type of ministry area to help just strengthen those things.
Man, I absolutely love that. Now, you talked about going into the business degree and stuff there, and Liberty University. So I've been on campus, but I never attended class there. Right, my doctorate's from there. But when you were going through that, right, and preparing yourself for ministry and things, you mentioned you found your wife and you went into an executive pastor role. Was that right out of college you went into that, or was there a journey to get to that level? Or what does that ministry, let's call it a career, if you will, look like?
Yeah, for sure. So funny story. I registered for a New Testament Greek class, not realizing like it was for people studying to go into ministry.
Yeah.
I had not been called to ministry. I had no desire to go into ministry. I actually had a bad view of those who were in ministry. I thought pastors were kind of lazy. And
for some reason you thought, you know what I want to do? I want to learn Greek.
I took Latin for 4 years in high school. I studied a year of classical Greek in high school. I loved it. So I just thought, it's
wow.
like,
okay. All right.
So I thought, this is just like Greek I studied in high school. I show up and I'm going, everyone wants to be a pastor in here. And that's where I met my wife. And I'm going, man, it's a waste of my time. I'm never going to use this. And then I end up meeting my wife, getting prepared for, occupational ministry later.
Yeah. Oh man, that's hilarious. So the funny part, I finished my degree, my master's in biblical studies. I've actually never taken a class of Greek or Hebrew. Yeah.
God bless you, brother.
Amen. That's it. And that's what I said. Like, I know people that know it and I trust them. I'm good. I'm all right. I'm from the South. I don't really English well. So to try to tack on any other language, especially Greek and Hebrew, it's, I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. And yeah, here we are. Yeah, man.
Hey, no, it's good. Well, I left school at 20, became a director of operations at a business there local, went into sales and marketing. And then when God called me to ministry at 22, I was like, I got to go back to school. Oh my goodness. And, we got married young, got married at 22, 21, had our first kid at 23, 22. And so then went back to school while we're doing all of that, and was serving in young adult college ministry there at our local church, overseeing a ministry of like 100 college young adults. And
wow.
from there, got hired to a church into youth ministry down in Texas. We thought the Lord was calling us to plant a church up near where, y'all are in the Northeast there. And we were like, hey, we're going to go to Hartford, Connecticut. We're going to take the gospel to the darkest place we can find.
Amen. Come on. It needs it.
And we're like, we're definitely not ready for that. We are so immature. We got to grow and learn. So the Lord took us down to Texas, served in youth ministry, and then went into adult ministry, and then went from there into executive pastor at a larger church, focusing discipleship and all the different ministries there. And and now do what we do with build groups, and absolutely love it. Now I will say this on the side, because I have so much free time with my boys and build groups. We are co-vocationally planting a church to reach the nations in the backyard of Dallas. So we have, that on there too, just because, we're a glutton for punishment.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? You know what? Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
You know what? You should sign up for another Greek and Hebrew class while you're at it. I mean, just go for it. Why not? Oh man. So, okay.
Yeah. That's good for marriage, right?
Yeah. So the executive pastor role, would you say that's what helped prepare you to launch out into build groups and really cultivated a passion for what it is you do now?
I would say it was all of it, right? It was all of it. A lot of, I would say, things helped me in being a director of operations and sales and marketing in that small business I worked for in Lynchburg, Virginia, really helped prepare me to run this business and the team that we have of 5 or 6 other consultants. And we have an editor, we have a content and publishing guy. We have a whole arm of publishing resources now for other authors. And so managing all that and building really a business that helps being adjacent to the church, support the church and grow the church, advance the gospel. It was a combination of doing occupation in business and then going into ministry and just seeing God bless what we did there and taking those principles that we saw worked in multiple occasions and worked for churches in other different cultures and contexts that had superseded that and really applied what I would say is we don't do a model in what we do. What we do is framework, which works with realities. And so what is true for your ministry area and your context, no matter where you are. And let's look at those and then let's customize and build from there so that it actually makes sense and takes root in your soil, that we don't have palm trees from Florida being planted in Minnesota and then 6 months later go, well, why didn't it, I can't believe it didn't work.
Absolutely. And I love that.
Yeah.
No, you're talking about that framework. I think that's so important for guys to hear, because there's so many well-intentioned organizations out there that have systems for churches. And here, use this system. Here's a giving system. Here's a group system. Here's this system and that system. And systems only work when all things are held equal. That's why Chick-fil-A works so well. McDonald's, Burger King, because the building looks basically the same. The background operations are basically the same, if not 100% the same. The leadership of those organizations are trained by the same people. And so the culture and everything is really, with little variance, identical. However, you can walk in 2 churches of the same denomination and you're going to find just, nope, never mind. That ain't it, right? Especially you got church planners who are operating with 25 to 80 people. You mentioned you're an executive pastor, so that church probably is running at least 300 or more. I go to a church right now where there's over, I think, 1,500 people there on a Sunday. And what works well for them and how they have to manage and operate and connect with people isn't going to do the same for a church of 50. And so how do you consult? How do you work with that? And you articulated that so well. So guys that are listening, he's saying what we do with Men After God as well. I love his specialization in groups, and we focus on men's ministry development. But it's the truth. Our coaching program and everything we do is not about getting you to take the Men After God system. We have a framework we coach around to help you in your context. And now, Adam, you with groups, you were able to get proof of concept inside the ministry you're working in. And then you said you worked part-time for a little bit. Talk about those years of part-time and developing that and investing in churches that way, and how it kind of helped to morph into you being able to take it full-time.
Sure. Yeah. So for 3 years, and the reason the whole thing started was I was looking for a conference for our group leaders that I could take them to. There was nothing in the Mecca of Christian conferences, Dallas, Texas. There was nothing for them.
Wow.
And so I said, all right, we'll just start our own thing. And I put on a little conference for our own. And then the next year, word kind of got out. We did this and we didn't advertise. Hey, can we come? I was like, yeah, come on. And had, a couple dozen churches come. And then the third year was like, let's open this up. Let's advertise. And we had more than 50 churches from all around the country flying in to come to this thing in a little rural town north of Dallas. And I'm going, okay, there's something here. And then those churches started inquiring, hey, could we hire you to consult us? And I'm going, and what? And
sure. Yeah. What do you want me to do?
Right. And so God was doing things that I didn't realize. And he was using and working through us in ways I didn't realize wasn't like, for me, it was like, hey, this is law. This is how we do it. And there are these principles. It was like, absolute, like we have to do this. And what I learned is that, and have continued to learn, is that 95% or more of churches have no clue about these things. And so, some would be like, hey, there's nothing new under the sun. And there's maybe a bit of a false humility in some of those statements. And what I can tell you with assurance in the churches that we work with is that the stuff that we take them through or offer, nobody does it. Like nobody has what we've got, and nobody has the kind of pathway in which we walk churches through to help them build out these things. And the cool thing is the results that the churches get to see is we say, hey, we'll help you increase by 30 to 50% in 6 to 12 months. And that's what we see again and again. And if a kids ministry were to increase their volunteer base by 30% in 6 months, they would just look at you as if you were Superman himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, that's a bit of what we see happen with some of those things. And it's just beautiful. But over those 3 years of the part-time, it was, just as I had time on the side, because we saw God grow our group's ministry from 10% of our people in a church of 800 to over 100% of those people in groups. Went from 30 leaders to 200 leaders. And the part I think that really applies with what you guys do, Men After God, is a huge impetus of us seeing that growth and God just bear that fruit in our ministry. And that consulting opportunity to come up was, we focused on going after men. We focused on discovering, developing, deploying men who had the potentially to lead a group or to teach. And a lot of times you see in groups ministry, they will focus on, let's find people, start a group, and then we'll get a leader. Whereas what we focus on, what I encourage churches to do, and what I did in those different roles, was we found the leader, then we started a group, and then the people joined a group. Mm-hmm. And so when we went down to just grassroots at the foundation of, let's build leaders, then we'll build groups, and then we'll see disciples built as a result of that in the image of Christ.
Man, the more you talk, the more confident I'm even growing in our own processes. Just because one of the questions, I just talked to a pastor earlier today, and he was saying, my church has grown and it's past the point to where I can do everything. And they're like, yeah, it was past that point on day one. And I think all pastors need to realize that, because they get themselves, I think, at smaller church mindset of, well, the pastor has to do everything. And that sets the church up for failure, because then when they start making adjustments and changes, people are like, well, wait a minute, what are we paying you for? Like, whoa, nope. And so anyways, but our first session in our coaching program is about the leader. It is about who that man is and how he's leading his own life, his own family, and developing his mission based upon the pastor's vision for the church and who God's made him to be. And I think that's so vital for the guys listening. Either if you are the leader, if you need a leader, if you want a men's ministry to succeed, you can't just grab a guy. And most of you wouldn't be so flippant with it. However, some of you would say like, well, he might be able to do it, or he could do it. And then you'll throw him in with no training, with nothing there. And Adam, did you see that? Have you seen that in your experience with groups of churches saying like, well, we needed a group leader, so we just gave it to him, and they gave no training or no preparation or anything?
The most common error I see churches make with groups is they just pick and place a leader, but they did not prepare them. And when they pick and they place them, without preparing them, they have positioned them to fail. And if you curate a culture of failure, that is not a positive kind like fail forward. It's a, hey, this was bad. No one should be a part of a group. Well, yeah, it's hard to get that going. And if you don't have a strong groups ministry, that's the one ministry in your entire church that affects every other ministry. Groups are the tide that raise all other ministry ships. If you have strong groups ministry, that is the supply chain of where all potential quality volunteers are going to come from, future servants, maybe even future staff. And so and honestly, if you have strong groups ministry, it really mitigates a lot of your church conflict because you're raising healthier, more mature disciples in your church. So, if you are focusing on having healthy groups within your church where you create the possibility for community to be built, because you can't microwave a leader and you can't microwave community. You can crock pot it. It takes time. If you took 3 to 5 men over the next year and you invested into them.
Hang on. You said crock potted. We're not women going to a brunch here. We smoke stuff. Okay. We're going to smoke it. That's what's going to happen. It's going to get smoked overnight. We're going to take our time with it. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that was a core doctrine that needed corrected.
There you go. Right.
Apologize for my heresy here. We'll edit that out. We smoke it. Yeah.
I don't even know if that's good to say either, but here we are. It's happening.
Yeah. And unfortunately, what you see with a lot of groups ministries or a lot of churches is they just expect relationships and community to be microwaved, and it just kind of happens. Like, if I just find the right people, this is one of the biggest myths the church has said for decades, and it drives me absolutely nuts, is if you will just find community, find your people that you can be in community, then you'll start to grow and be, and that's such a myth, because you don't find community, you forge community. You forge community through effort, through time spent, invested in one another, through text messages, through phone calls, through prayers, through saying no to other things on your calendar and showing up to those people's kids' sporting event or game, or going to their house, or inviting them over for dinner, cleaning up the house when you don't feel like cleaning it up, maybe even going over to the hospital when the thing happens and their kid gets hurt and you're going to be there for them. All of those hard-earned blood, sweat, and tear type moments are what forge community. And the loneliness epidemic is at a high in America. It's we're battling the loneliness epidemic, which a lonely man is a dangerous man. A bored man is a dangerous man.
Yep.
And so if you have strong opportunities for them to build, create community, identify potential men who could become group leaders, and they step into a place they didn't know that God wired them to operate in, and you see the Holy Spirit just unleash some things in them they weren't aware of, and you get to see that actualize. You get a front row seat to see them go on the field to perform and discover gifts they didn't know they had. It's a bit contagious, and you might be a little bit nervous as a ministry leader to go, wow, we might see God do some pretty amazing things I never dreamed that he could have, right?
I absolutely love that, man. And I want to speak from pastoral experience real quick on a couple things. When I came to the church I was pastoring, they had a Wednesday night service. And for those not watching on YouTube, I'm using air quotes. Church was averaging 120 when I got there. And it had 17 on Wednesday nights, with some kids and stuff downstairs. But the adult programming service, if you will, was like 17 people. And I would come in, I'm thinking there's a better way. And it was a traditional Wednesday night service. And if you're listening, you're not familiar with what that is. We'd come in and there was songs kind of, and then there was a Bible study. And that was not me. I didn't want that. I wanted something different. And I probably rushed it and found people who told me they could lead groups and kind of set it up. Now, bright side, I did it. We launched our first group in February of 2020. So we only had like 4 weeks and then we were shut down. However, continuing forward, this is why guys like Adam are so important to you as a pastor or a ministry leader. You get so caught up in all of the nuances and all of the things Adam just talked about of these personal connections you're making as a pastor and things that are required of you. And then if you're a young pastor raising a family, you get so caught up in all this, you'll neglect the training and the preparing aspect for your ministry leaders, rather than having someone come alongside you, like Adam, like Men After God, and work with you almost as, and Adam, you can correct me on this, but it's, yeah, you call it consulting, and that's not wrong. However, in secular world, there's a growing trend of fractional executives. So like a fractional CMO, a fractional CFO, you're really coming in as a fractional staff member to say, hey, pastor, I'm here alongside you to carry out your vision for this, and I'll take care of the training and development of your group's ministry and your group's leaders. And so that would have been vital, huge for me as a pastor, because I will tell you, you will have people that think they can lead a group because they think they can do public speaking. Leading a group is not public speaking. And Adam, I don't know how you guys do it. And again, you may leave it contextual, but at Men After God, when we teach men to lead a men's group, we teach the group facilitation method. We don't teach the lecture method. Lecture method, people retain 5% of what they hear, but they retain 50% and apply of 50% of what they say. So we teach how to ask great questions and facilitate a conversation to get men to give the response so that they are thinking through the answer, saying it, and they are going to internalize it more. And it takes time to learn that. So I'm saying all this, guys, to tell you, if you're a ministry leader listening and you've got someone who's leading a group that doesn't know how to, you're not being kind by just letting them learn trial by fire. You either need to train or you need to replace. And because if not, you're ultimately hurting your ministry. And I'm saying this from experience, you're hurting your ministry more. And that's why you give guys like Adam a call to come in, do some training, or, talk with you about what could move next. So Adam, I do want to move towards that for a minute. You talked about the groups ministry and you nodded your head when I mentioned the group facilitation. Now, context is important. We both agree with that. But is there, in your framework, what are some consistent things, if you're willing and able to share with us, that you would say are like vital for the success of a group or group's ministry? And for me, I would say group facilitation needs to be a main part of that. What are some things for you that are like, hey, yes, we do framework, but these are things that we consistently stick to?
Sure. And I'll zoom out for a moment and then I'll zoom back into the facilitator part of that. You have to have, and so we use our frameworks called the 6 areas of a group's ministry: discover, develop, and deploy new group leaders, where you can connect them into community with other leaders and connect people into their groups, coach them ongoing, and care for the souls of all. So discover, develop, deploy new group leaders, connect, coach, and care to strengthen your existing groups.
Adam, if I didn't know you at all and I heard you talk like this, I would know you have a Baptist background. You have alliterated so much. As an author and a Baptist background, that's just where the Lord took me. And amen. That's it. Yes.
I love it. I'm a sucker for it, man. I can't help it.
Yeah, I feel like I want a Yoda meme, right? The alliteration is strong with this one.
Right. Yeah. So it helps retain it. It's a higher percentage retainment, right? For
absolutely
learning. So I would say discover. You got to have a constant influx of new group leaders coming in, even if it's 1 or 2 every 6 months or a year. You have to have a regular cycle and rhythm within your ministry of new potential group leaders who are coming in. Now, I've operated at the level where it's like, man, we had 50 new group leaders a year, right? And I've worked and operated with churches that have 100 people and they're adding 3 new group leaders in a year. And they're going, wow, this was such a game changer. This changed everything. Because at the end of the day, right, we're not called to do all the ministry. We're called to equip the saints to do the work of ministry, Ephesians 4, 11, and 12.
Oh, amen. Tweet that, clip that. That is so good. So good.
Yeah. And when you equip men to lead in group, you're not just equipping them to help others, interact and learn how to make disciples and how to have relationships with other people. You're helping them also become a better gospel witness to those who aren't. Because if you can't do relationships with people who agree with you, how in the world are you going to do it with people who disagree with you? And on top of that, if you're not used to talking about spiritual matters in a group setting, how in the world are you going to have that conversation with your kids and your wife?
That's good.
And so what I see again and again is whenever you see men who are equipped to lead a group, it ups the ante and their ability to lead their family as well, because they're taking transferable skills that they can use to facilitate that type of discipleship within the family home unit, right? So for a group's ministry to be successful, you want to discover, develop, deploy new group leaders, zoom in. Part of the develop and what we train group leaders to do is how to facilitate that. Now, you can't train someone how to facilitate by lecturing them. And I have this with so many churches that we work with. I go, all right, hey, tell me what your training process is. They go, well, we want them to have discussion. We want to be more discussion-based, facilitate. I go, hey, well, how did you train them to do it? And they said, well, we lectured them for 60 minutes.
And they didn't get it. I don't understand.
and I go, right. And I'm not being, I'm not trying to dog them or anything or whatever, but I get it again. And I go, so you modeled for them what you didn't want them to do, and you only messaged to them. And they go, yeah. And it clicks, the light bulb goes on. And I go, you have to message and model. You want to set up your training like it's a group. You want them to have explained to them what it looks like to facilitate, but you also want them to experience it as a recipient so they know what it feels like on the other end, so they can go and replicate that and do that themselves. And so, the facilitation and that side of it, it's got to be more like, for a worship leader to bring in new band members, it's so much easier because everything they do is experiential. They have to be able to do something. But when we go to kids ministry, student ministry, or adult ministry, we like to default to the classroom that has all explanation and no experience. And we got to get back to the modeling and the experiencing. This is what it feels like. And therefore now I can go and do that.
Oh man, no, I love what you said there. Because that's true across the board. And I'm going to step away from groups conversation for just a minute, because I highlight this anytime I get the opportunity to. The classroom, for years, people have realized the classroom, whether it be at high school or below, undergraduate, graduate, doctoral level, does not prepare you for real life. It gives you the academic perspective on case studies, analysis, and different things like that. But you don't know what you're doing until you get out there and do it. And the training for ministry, even, that's what got me to do doctoral research, Adam, was my concern about how we are training men for ministry. And so now this is of the Lord. This isn't a thing that I just came up with, but through prayer and my time in my doctoral studies, I came to the place when it was finally time to do my thesis, do my projects. I had stopped looking to develop men for ministry, and the Lord had really shown me that the problem is that we were trying to develop men for ministry. What if we just developed men as followers of Jesus, and then they are capable to serve in ministry? Seminaries are great and wonderful, and you mentioned the Greek and Hebrew, and you may have an MDiv. I don't know. God bless you if you do that. Nope. But those types of degrees and credentials, that is not ministry training. I think we are producing academics and theologians from these universities, and churches are requiring MDivs to be a pastor when I don't need an MDiv as a pastor. I need a guy that loves Jesus, loves his family, and is going to model that and be able to engage people in leadership. There's how many people graduate from seminary and get out there and go, whoa, what's a budget? What do you mean profit and loss? What do you mean this? And I know we don't like using that term in the church, but it's what it is. It's a P&L report, guys. And so, and then setting that stuff. And what do you mean I have to mitigate an argument between two of my deacons, or my deacons and my finance team, and I've got to lead this and do that? Like, maybe we should change how we train men for ministry. And then to take a step back, maybe we should just train to be followers of Jesus. And then you said it. Your people in your groups are your next volunteers, your next potential staff members. I think, and I can make the argument for, it's not that I wouldn't go pastor a church again or anything like that, but I can make the argument one of the failures of pastors coming into churches, and the reason we see so much breakup and stuff there, is because there wasn't a development of a man on the inside, if you will, to raise up as a pastor. And honestly, pastors and ministry leaders, if you're listening, your job is to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. And let's say it this way, you need to train yourself out of a job, so that if you're not there, there's someone else that can do it for you. End rant. Okay, Adam, back to groups.
Amen.
Sorry, man. That's my soapbox. I can stand on that one for a while and just roll. Oh,
I love it. I love it. No, I would have sat there and listened to a full 30-minute sermon, brother. That was like, yes. Yes.
Careful. I might just keep going, but no. All right. So let's go back to build groups, because I love everything you've said. Now you've got a new product coming out. You've got a new piece of material that's for guys, for build groups and building up groups. So I want you to talk about that. But before you do, clarify something from earlier that came back to me here. You mentioned how you increased the volunteer base and things of that nature. When you say that, you're not telling guys and pastors that, hey, I'm just going to increase your group leaders. You're saying, I'm going to increase your overall volunteer base. Is that correct? Am I understanding that right?
We have 3 different consulting services that we offer with our consulting team. We have starting and strengthening small groups. That's the one that got us started. That's the most popular one still. The second would be solving the volunteer crisis. And so we'll come in, work with an entire staff, or depending on the church size, it might just be one ministry, like a kids ministry or student ministry or a worship team or guest first impressions ministry. And they are deficient in volunteers, and we'll come in and help them go through an 8-month process where we help them increase their volunteer base by 30 to 50% in 6 to 12 months. And we do it every time. We've never not done it. So, and then the third one is assimilation. So small groups, solve the volunteer crisis, and assimilation, all those obviously going together very well. Some churches hire us to do all 3 over a 12 to 18 month period. But yeah, those are the things that we do, and work with all different types of ministries through the church.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Now talk about the new product you've got coming out that partners with your base model, your base training.
Yeah. So our original big resource that we published was a 6-year project that we took over 1,000 group leaders through to train them on how to be a healthy group leader. And it was 5 sessions, resource, very, very original name, called Group Leader Training.
You're so creative, Adam. I'm just amazed.
Yeah, they say clarity over cute, right? So
absolutely, yes.
That's what we leaned on, and so it's a biblical manual for small group leaders and teachers in the local church. And a lot of the churches we work with, they'll use that to train their group leaders and things like that in really 4 or 5 main, really important areas. A lot of data and statistics that are woven into that to help inform things. But the resource that we're now publishing that comes after that is for the entire small group. So what we'd have is we have these small group leaders go through group leader training and say, I wish my entire group could go through this. This was so good. It was so helpful. And we'd say, well, I mean, it's got all this leader language. It's not going to work for your whole group to go through it. So we said, all right, well, let's create a 4-week study to help kickstart a new or even existing group, to help them start and strengthen their group into gospel transformation. And so we use data statistics that we've taken from thousands of different responses of small group members, leaders, pastors, and we help train them in a 4-week study, not just how to be a group, but we've trained now the group leader how to be a healthy group leader, but then we use that to train the group how to be healthy group members. And that's not something that I really see out there. It's not something that's really kind of, it's like, hey, do this study and learn about God's word and follow Jesus. And this study specifically goes into the angle of, look, this is what it means to be a healthy group, and this is how you can be a healthy group member, and you guys can have longevity and see just God do beautiful things with, in and through your biblical community for years to come. And so when groups use that, it typically speeds up the relationship forming stage of a group by about 3 to 6 months. It really sets a healthy trajectory and removes a lot of the landmines that just naturally are there with any start of any new group, and helps remove a lot of the relational risk.
Man, I love that. And where can guys access this?
So it's going to be available January 13th. We'll have it available on Amazon. We'll have it available on our website for bulk order. And it's at buildgroups.net would be the best place for you to go. That's our website, buildgroups.net/healthy-groups, I think is what it is. I'm not the guy who makes the URLs, but we'll just hopefully, you can go to the website, buildgroups.net. You'll probably find it. Can find us on Facebook, Build Groups, or it's going to be on Amazon. We've got 7 other resources from a few of our other authors and myself that we've got things on there for next step resources, group training, small group curriculum, videos on the website that complement the leader guide and the participant guides and all those things too.
I love it, man. All right. We're going to make sure all that's in the show notes, guys. If that's something you're interested in, go find that. I did just pull up his website. It is buildgroups.net/healthy-groups. And if you just go to buildgroups.net, click on books, the first one up there, Healthy Groups, it'll take you over to that. Adam, man, thank you so much for your time today, your insight. I love what you're doing. I can't wait to just stay connected with you. You've got a conference, big conference, first time you're doing this, coming up 2025. Pitch that real quick.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. It's just taking all of me and then some.
Yeah.
yeah, man. We have the first annual National Small Groups Conference that is happening in Dallas, Texas on November 13th and 14th. And so that's a Thursday and a Friday. And there's just nothing out there really that is offered in that space right now that is at that price point. So it's going to be around $80 per ticket. Very affordable, and there's no limit. I mean, it's going to be great. We're going to have a very experiential conference and some great speakers. I actually met with our speaker selection team that was appointed just yesterday. And so we have identified main speakers, a whole list of them. We're reaching out, really exciting. And then we also now are moving forward with our conference experience team, because we're not just going to do a conference for content, right? Because it's small groups. Like we just said, you got to model and you got to experience, not just explain and message. And that conference experience team, they are tasked with helping curate and create the most awesome small group experience that small group pastors, leaders, ministers can have at a conference that builds relationships. And they get just little tidbit examples of how they can help build relationships and community at their own churches.
I love it, man. I think it's phenomenal. And is there a website to register for that?
Not yet. It's going to be out February 15th. But if you want to learn more about it and you want to at least get some updates, you can go to buildgroups.net and you can sign up for like new release information, and we will get you on our email list and we'll send that information out. Or you can follow us on Facebook. It's going to be all over that as well, Instagram, and we'll get you that information one way or another.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, go to buildgroups.net, go over to the right where it says more, and then as the menu pops up, click on sign up, and that will get you signed up for new releases for more information about the Small Groups Conference taking place November 2025. And I can't wait for that. I'm excited for it. I'm hoping I'll be able to make it out to that. If not, maybe I'll watch on live stream or something. But man. Okay. Adam, thanks again, brother. This has been such a phenomenal conversation. Guys, make sure to go visit the links, connect yourself with Adam and what he's doing, follow him on Facebook, and invest into your groups. And obviously, from Men After God, invest into your men's group. Make sure your men's ministry has a place where the men can have conversation. They can open up, be transparent, vulnerable, and authentic with one another. Because Adam's right. That's what he starts with. He invests into the men. And that's exactly what you need to do. Invest into the men, because you'll reach their families, you'll reach your church, you'll reach your community, and have a major impact there. You can follow us at facebook.com/the Men After God. Check us out there. We're on all major podcast platforms where you're listening right now, which would be great for you to leave us a review, like, subscribe, share with a friend. And then don't forget, check out the website, www.menaftergod.net. We'd love for you to sign up for either our membership program. We've also got our men's ministry battle plan we offer at 70% off. You can check that out. Or if you'd like to check out our consulting offer, where we come in and do 12-week video sessions with you and 6 coaching calls over the course of 6 months to help you establish, revitalize, or grow your men's ministry. It's menaftergod.net/consulting. All right, guys, I hope you have an amazing time. I'll talk to you on our next episode, and be sure to check out Adam's information before you get offline today. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Men After God podcast. We hope today's discussion has encouraged and equipped you on your journey. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, or would like to partner with us, please reach out at support@menaftergod.net. Stay connected with our community by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/menaftergodpodcast. For deeper engagement, join our group at facebook.com/groups/menaftergod and connect with other men pursuing God's heart. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Your feedback helps us reach more men striving to live faithfully. Until next time, stay strong in the faith and continue pursuing after God.